But I'll tell you how broad this conspiracy reaches. When you Google that story, and Google's supposed to take everything in, you can't find it. And the only way Google can stop that, their machines from finding it, is to go in and intervene and make sure that they write a special, and it says, do not pick up anything that has these words in it. Now, you can still find it if you go on, but you put anything in quotes from the AP article, it doesn't come up. And according to their software, that's impossible, but it happens all the time. So the media is complicit in that, and that leads to my, well, that's number 5. Number 4 is one of the most important and understated human pieces of spirit and psychology that you need to understand about the movement. The majority in this nation are guilty of what I call chronic violations of the daily promptings of conscience. And this has to do with their lifestyle, the junk food that they eat, the junk television they watch. And if you want proof of that, let me tell you, advertisers on television are not stupid. Do you enjoy the ads on television? Do you buy those kinds of products? Do you respond to those drug ads? I mean, it just bothers me no end to see the evils of those drug ads and the side effects and the glossy people they put in. I mean, this is one of the most interesting things that's happened to our society. It used to be automobiles, and now the only people with money to pay for these $1 million ads are the drug companies. But you know, they're low-class ads, and you look at the sitcoms on television. Who do they appeal to? I hope they don't appeal to you. But they appeal to somebody. And that should tell you about whether or not we have a majority. There's not a moral majority. We are the minority. And this is the thing we have to deal with now. When I was back in Washington with Howard Phillips, he would always talk about, give them a vision of victory. Well, perhaps that was appropriate in those days. Maybe it was still possible in those days. But I'll tell you, there's been a lot of water under the bridge. Even the homosexual movement, in terms of its invasion of the morality, has moved to probably 300% greater infiltration into the movement today. These are very serious moral problems that we're dealing with in society, and we must not be unrealistic. We must not be blind to the fact of what our real situation. I am not telling you all this because I'm saying go home and quit. I have solutions for some of these things. But we need to be very realistic if we're going to not wear ourselves out with fruitless idealism, with unreal expectations. I know that you people have put in the hours and the time, and it's important that we understand how to deal with reality rather than the illusions of prosperity. We have enough of those illusions in life. But what I want to tell you is you must not underestimate the problem we face with the chronic violations of conscience, because this is people's interaction with God. This is people's interaction with the Spirit of the Lord that tries to warn them that something's wrong with the country. Now, Chuck Baldwin in his talk mentioned that he sensed this feeling that he gets when he talks to me about people, that there's something wrong. I get that too occasionally, but I talk to a lot more people in my business and other things that are establishment people. I speak to large investment groups. These are well-heeled, established. They're conservative. But you know, they don't want to hear what I'm saying. They don't want to sense it. It's not a matter of nobody feels it. I think most people sense it, but they easily allow those feelings and conscience to be plastered down by the assurance of government. Notice how many investors got on board and saying the Fed's doing a wonderful job. This is the perpetrator of everything that went wrong with the bubble, is the Fed. And why are they for the Fed? Because even though they know it's phony money, even though they know it's ultimately inflationary, it will bail them out and allow them to get out of the system before it collapses, so they don't care. They don't have any principles. That's what we're facing. Those people are immune to the truth because it gets in the way of what they know they can still get from the establishment. I even know good conservatives, even in my own family circle, who shun with every motive in their body, any feeling of admission that there's a conspiracy against liberty in this country. How could that happen? Even the Skousen family, when Cleon wrote the book, The Naked Capitalist, which was the first great book to expose this. It's because they still want to get ahead with the establishment. They still have careers, and they know intrinsically that they're going to be blackballed if they take that view. And they are right. They're absolutely right. Now, we need to be better examples, ladies and gentlemen, of living conscience. I can tell you that the crisis that Chuck Baldwin yesterday warned about is coming upon this nation. And I'll tell you a little more about that. But I can also tell you that if you're running your life by a rule-making approach, if you're regularly violating the promptings of conscience about nutrition, about weight control, about exercise, about permissiveness with your children, about television habits, about reading habits, the things you don't think God worries about, you will be not eligible for the warning voice when you need it most, because you will have told the Lord to get lost too many times, and He penalizes you that. We need to be also better examples to people, because if we're dumpy, and if we're not well-spoken, when we try to convert people in door-to-door, they dismiss you. You're obviously not a credible person. Don't underestimate this. What I'm telling you, we have an obligation to live according to the Spirit of the Lord, even in the smallest temporal promptings, if we expect to survive what's coming, if we expect to have the blessings of the Lord, to go against this wall of opposition that I'm describing to you. We need to be better people. We need to be more inspired. Now, number 5 is an extremely well-developed conspiracy to deceive that now has effective control, though not absolute control, of all the levers of power of influence in the nation. I'm going to be very straight about this. I believe this conspiracy is very powerful. There is a lot of theory about it, but there's a lot of hard evidence, and I'm going to give you some of that. We actually have proofs of conspiracy, a few of them. Most of it is what I call inductive reasoning. We see a pattern of conspiracy. You never get a chance, if I'm interviewing on television with a hostile interview, I never get a chance to prove conspiracy because I have to lay out in 2 or 3 hours a pattern of conduct. And if they give me enough time to focus on only one, it's not enough to prove the case. Well, at least that used to be true. We now have some proofs. I'm going to give you a couple of them. When I was in Europe in the mid-1990s, I was in Spain, and I just happened to hear a national interview by Iñaki Gabilondo. He's the Walter Cronkite of Spanish television. He was interviewing José María Aznar, who was the new president of Spain. He was a relatively unknown. He was replacing Felipe González of the Socialist Party, who was ousted because of a major scandal. And so this liberal, well-meaning, he's actually a very fine man, Iñaki Gabilondo, he was interviewing, and he said, President Aznar, everybody in the nation wants to know how it is that you, as a relatively unknown, in one election came to be president of Spain. Now, you know that doesn't happen, ladies and gentlemen. And he knew that. He wanted to know how it happened. And José María Aznar, who being relatively unknown and a nice guy as well, was very open. And he said, well, the powers that be came to me and asked me to run. He actually used those words. Los poderes que hay, the powers that be, came to ask me to run. And Iñaki Gabilondo had a fit. Here's a prime leftist, not part of the conspiracy, just one of those honest liberals. What do you mean the powers that be? That's conspiracy. We don't believe in the powers that be. I said, no, the labor union heads and the big corporation bosses and the big utility people and the bankers and even some of them, they came and said, we'll give you enough support, we just want you to run.